Shalom, this is David Ben Ariel. I wrote Beyond Babylon, Europe's Rise and Fall. It discusses many subjects and brings to light a lot of things that have been hidden that folks would be surprised if they'd read their Bible without traditional blinders on. But one of the things I want to talk about today is Jesus was talking to one of the major religious leaders of his day named Nicodemus, and he went and told him in John 3 verse 13, no man has ascended up to heaven. Undoubtedly that religious leader, like the many religious leaders today, teach and believe that everybody's up in heaven. But Jesus said, no man has ascended up to heaven. He's the only one that has. And apparently Peter agrees with him, because on the holy day of Shavuot, Pentecost, which is when the Church of God was founded, on a holy day, it wasn't done away like some lie, but he's telling the Jews there who were gathered in Jerusalem, he said, men and brethren, in verse 29 of Acts 2, let me freely speak to you of the patriarch David, that he's both dead and buried, and his grave is with us to this day. So here he's addressing the crowd and talking about one of the greatest Jewish heroes, national heroes, King David. And he's saying he's dead and buried, and his grave is with us to this day. I've been to his grave. It's on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and the Catholics are trying to steal it away from the Jews. It's also the same place where the so-called Last Supper took place. But here he's saying, let me tell you freely, talk to you freely, that David is dead and buried. And some might say, well, yes, David's dead and buried and his grave's there, but he's up in heaven. Well, he's not in heaven, because then in verse 34, he says very clearly in black and white, the plain truth of the Bible, for David is not ascended into the heavens. So it sounds like Jesus, who said no man has ascended up to heaven. So Jesus said that, Peter said that, and then here over in Hebrews 11, it's the so-called faith chapter. It mentions all these holy people that some of you are familiar with, maybe from a kid, maybe you went to Vacation Bible School or something, but it talks about Noah, talks about Abel, talks about Enoch, and Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, and it says these all died in faith, not having received the promises. And it goes on and talks about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob some more, and Moses, and it says these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. They didn't receive eternal life yet. They're dead and buried, just like King David. God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect or perfected. They're not going to be perfected or glorified or changed from flesh and blood to spirit until the same time as the rest of the holy people and the Christians who are alive at the return of Christ. As it says in 1 Corinthians, he says, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. When? In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, not a moment before. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. That's when the dead will rise. That's when the dead will receive their inheritance and their reward. And they're not up in heaven now, and Jesus Christ is coming to earth. And it says in one place that we'll meet him in the air. And so in that sense, he'll bring the dead back with him, because they'll have been resurrected just before the people who are alive are transformed. But then we'll come back to the Mount of Olives. We'll liberate Jerusalem, and we'll reign from there with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. But Paul said in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 13, but I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that you sorrow not, even as others who have no hope. He didn't want people to be uninformed and to have grief or to be overwhelmed for those who have died, because he wants them to know that even though they're as good as alive, they're considered sleeping now. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and some of us do believe that, even so also those which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. Yes, they'll be resurrected when that last trump sounds, when Christ returns. And then when Christ returns, he'll bring his reward with him, because Revelation 22 verse 12 says, and behold, I come quickly. This is Jesus Christ speaking, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall be. So here we see that Jesus Christ is going to bring the reward from heaven. It's presently reserved in heaven. It says your treasure's in heaven. Well, it's there now. It's reserved. But he's bringing it with him. So everybody's going to get what they deserve. He's bringing his reward with him. And he's coming to earth. So if you hear a religious leader saying folks are up in heaven, they don't know what they're talking about. They need to read their Bible.